Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart. And this week's episode, I'm going to be highlighting all of the expenses that come with being an artist, but specifically a muralist. So talking from my standpoint. And I want to do this because sometimes I get really excited when I land a bigger job or a medium-sized job, and I really just look at the big number. And if I think about all the expenses that come out of it, it helps me to charge more because I'm valuing my time. I'm looking at all the expenses of things that are sitting in my art studio that I've invested in, like a ladder or scaffolding or my computer or just all the things that we need to do business, or the marketing efforts that it took to get the business, or all the time spent preparing, and everything that just doesn't even include the painting part, which is what I tend to focus on. And painting is just what everybody thinks that we do online anyway. Like, oh, you just show up and paint. Nobody thinks about the prep. Nobody thinks about the buying of the supplies, the everything. So I'm going to go through this list that I made. And this came about because in my small group coaching, I had some artists that are afraid to charge a lot. And same. I've been there, and you want to send out like that $7,000 price tag, right? But you're like, wait, I don't know, like this, there's so much and I'm like, no. If we think about the expenses, the time that it took to get this job, the everything in it, this is worth it. And don't even mention taxes that come out of it. So 30% off the top, okay. But let's just go through some of the costs. Oh, for muralists specifically, and this could go for if you're a canvas artist, some of these kind of tie over, but specifically for muralists, we just have a lot of expenses that people don't take into consideration. And you can get by with, not having a really nice ladder or just not having an iPad. Kind of, I assume you can get by with that, but then that just costs you more time, right? But you can get by with not having a few of these, but these are all the things that I have in my art studio that save me time and help me get the job done faster and just the whole bit. So the first thing that I thought of on this list was the projector. I use an Epson 250. Everybody asks me. I use the Epson 250 and I love it because whenever you can be straight on with a wall, you can put it up and it self-levels. You can put it to the side and it straightens out. And that is the thing that I love about my projector. I invested in the Apple Vision. I'll do a whole podcast on that in a little bit just to talk about the projector versus Apple Vision, like VR, the whole thing, drawing it out, the whole the thoughts on that and how some people look down upon it and all that. But anyway, the cost per projector was $500. I actually got mine on Amazon used for $350, I think it was. And I am totally down to buy a refurbished projector for sure, or used or whatever it is. It's worked out great for me, costs a little bit less, and I know that I'm going to have to get another one in several years anyway. And yeah, big fan. So Amazon used. If you don't want to pay full price, get a used one. So far I haven't had to let me down. But projector, my iPad, I have the big 13-inch, and anytime I come across any artists, they're like, how big is your iPad? Oh my gosh, that's like a TV. Like, people say that to me all the time, but I love the big screen on it. And I'm always chipping off paint from the top of it, just scraping it off, because pretty often I'll be holding it in my left hand and then painting in my right or drawing it out or something. Love the iPad. And as soon as it made the pen, you guys don't even know how hard it was. Any beginner artist, you don't even understand. 6 years ago, they came out with that pen. So prior to that, what did we do? We had to learn freaking Photoshop. It was terrible. Or we had to paste together things or draw things out. Like it seems like back in the Stone Age, but having that pen on the iPad has made my life so much easier. There's a learning curve, obviously, but if you haven't used it yet, highly recommended. And I bet anybody that uses or something similar to it is just like nodding your head like, yes, this is so great. It's so much easier than drawing it out. Also, tip, whenever I am drawing things out on my iPad, more often than not, to save time with mockups, I will just copy, paste illustrative photos from different areas, paste it onto the mockup, call it good. Time is everything. But another thing, the cost of the iPad was about, I wouldn't say I paid like $1,000 for it. Yeah. Like, and the Apple Care, 100% worth it because I've dropped one. I just talked to another muralist who dropped one, her iPad, and shattered the screen. And I personally know about 3 people who have done it, and I haven't even asked around. Like, people just have randomly told me. I'm like, yep, same. And you know how much it costs to fix that thing? It cost me $500 to fix a screen on an iPad. So Apple Care is so worth it. I bought it on my Apple Vision as well because just so I don't give myself a heart attack, because it's been there, done that. So, but that's another expense, right? Not just the iPad, but the Apple Care, like paying to fix it, the whole bit. Also, computer. I think I have the iPad Air and I love it. I feel like buying the Air version of the iPad or the MacBook. Wait, did I say iPad Air? Yeah, I don't know. So the Mac Air and I have iPad Air. And as long as you put a heavy case over it, which I think you should do with anything, right? I think that's the better version of when buying anything Apple, is just buy the Air version. It's smaller. It doesn't hold as much memory. Well, actually, no, my iPad Air holds a lot of memory. So I don't know I don't know why it's smaller. I don't know what makes it less. I guess if we're not running like video and like video games, that would probably make it lag, but that's not what I need it for. So it's quite a bit less. So just, I don't know if anybody knows this trick, but iPad Air or Mac Air, and it costs less and it's the same. I have zero complaints about this and they last forever. I'm going to add my phone to the expense list because I think if you want to share photos online and videos specifically, you need to have some kind of updated phone. It doesn't have to be the newest of the new or even the second newest version of anything, but there's a huge difference between like iPhone 8 and iPhone 12. You know what I mean? And I can see it. I can see it when other people post stuff. It's just like, it's a much higher quality. It looks better. And if you're playing the game of being on Instagram Reels or TikTok, specifically those 2 things, anything like short-term video, you need to have high quality gear and it matters. So mine has like the 3 cameras on my phone. I don't know what all those 3 cameras do, but they make it to be fantastic. So yeah, there's updated phone that costs about, I think this cost me like $1,000, which is insane. But if you break that down into, I am on this thing way too much and everything I do goes for this. So worth it. I'm just going to say it's totally worth it. It's like, imagine if you wore a piece of clothing every single day and night. Like, how much would you pay for that one piece of clothing to do everything you need? Like, same thing. If you need a ladder, I like the Little Giant ladder. It has the leveling feet to where if you're, which we always are, if you're outside muraling and you want to mural up close to a building and there's rocks there and you go to set your ladder up and then it's just slightly leaning to the right, rather than getting up there and having it lean, as my husband would say, and then you die. Like, rather than that, it's worked out for me so well to just be able to just have that self-leveling bottom to it to make it even. That way we're up there, it's straight. We're making straight lines. Nothing's leaning to the right. And I think it cost me about $250 for my ladder. I think I looked recently and I think they're more than that, but there's 3 Little Giant ladders available. So I think if you go to littlegiant.com or something like that, this is not sponsored by literally any product that I'm recommending, but it should be. And there's a light one, a slightly heavier one, and then an even heavier one. And I want to say that I have the middle version. So, which is heavier means also taller. So it just has a lot more to it. So I want to say the smallest Little Giant ladder that they offer. So it folds down, it can go in my car, and then it can extend. And then you can extend it to where it's not just an A-frame, but it's elongated as well. And I think the elongated version can go up to about 16 foot with the smallest version, and 19 or 20 foot with the bigger, slightly bigger version, so the medium one. And then the biggest one I think can go to like 25 feet. I have the medium version. And if you are female, I suggest that you get the smaller version below mine. It's cheaper. It's smaller. That's the main thing. It's a little bit smaller. No, you can't reach 20 foot in the air, but it's much easier to maneuver. I have the medium Little Giant ladder. By the way, if you want to see this, I have this all on my art supply list with a full video showing you exactly what this ladder looks like, how I do it, all the links to everything, and you can download that completely for free. I'll link it here. I'm actually not sure what the link is, but actually I bet it's artistacademy.co/supply. So artistacademy.co/supply. And I have a story to tell you on this in a second, but yeah, you can go see it. Anyway, I recommend the smallest one because I have the medium one and it's just a lot to carry around. It's a lot to load in the car. I'm not the strongest person, but it takes a ton of energy for me. So much to where if I think that there's a possibility that I might not need it, but I also might, I'll just leave it at home because I'm like, I don't want to load it in the car if I think like I'm not doing that unless I for sure am going to need this heavy duty ladder. So if I were to go back, I would have gotten the smaller version. And I think it's about $250, or the medium version is about $350, and then the bigger one's maybe $500 or something like that. Go to the link. The next expense I put on here is paint. However, I think that's the least amount that we use in general. Somebody asked me like, oh yeah, your prices must be high because of all the paint costs. And I was like, actually, I spend maybe $100 in paint per project when the projects aren't giant, right? Paint can go so far. See, we just got back from our mural meetup in Mexico where we painted 4 walls. And they were, I don't know, on average about 6 by 8 foot walls, maybe bigger, something like that. Some partial coverage, some full coverage. And I want to say we used in total 2 gallons of paint for all 4 of those walls, and which would have probably cost me $80 a gallon. So you're looking at about $160 per project. And we were going through and I was like, what would I have charged for this? If this wasn't like a meetup, I would have charged probably 10 grand or more. So the cost for all of that was less than $200 for paint, which is a steal. It's so great. Our cost of product for completing a job when it comes to paint is so small. But everything else that I'm listing just completely adds up, because not just with your computer, you have to pay for the website. And I want to say I pay about $35 a month to have Shopify. And maybe I do the yearly now. I'm not sure. I need to know this a lot more. I'm about to go through and do my full taxes and do all the deductions, which is what got me thinking about this, but I haven't done it completely. And so I'm not sure what the exact numbers are, but that's pretty close. But it's just all the little stuff. And like QuickBooks is the taxes online system that I use every year, all throughout the year. It makes my life so much easier on the back. I'll probably spend like 2 full hours doing my taxes. I'm just putting it off. which I told myself I wasn't going to do this year. Anyway, but I pay about $150 a year for QuickBooks. I'm like, man, brushes. Brush hack. I love this. Go to Amazon and there are these Vermeer brushes and they come in a pack of 7 for $7. And you'd think that ordering 7 Muralist brushes, so they're big, so 1 inch, 2 inch, I think there's a 2.5 or 3 inch as well, slanted, flat. There's just a pack of 7 Muralist brushes. And I always order this whenever we go to mural meetups because they come packaged so easily and they're so flat and I can just put them in my suitcase. And if anything happens to them, oh well. But I order these every once in a while. And you think that ordering something for that price, it would be like the brushes would fall out or the bristles would fall out and it wouldn't be very good. No, these things are hardy. I haven't had to throw any of them away. I just am really, really hard on my brushes. And so I leave them out on accident. Or like when we have mural meetups, even here in Missouri, like brushes just die. They die. It's just what happens. It's an expense that I have just come to be like, okay. But with these Vermeer brushes, by the way, these brushes are all on my art supply list. And you see a video of them, you see what they look like, you get the direct link to my Amazon list and so many other things. So go to the link in whatever description. I'll put it right at the top of this description of this podcast. And you can just click the link and go to my art supply list and you can see all of these things. And it's so much more too. Yeah, I order these and I love them so much. You can also get, I don't have like a special link to this, but Zebra brushes, they sent me a pack of their liner brushes. And it's just, if you don't want to spend $7 and you want to invest in something that's going to hold a little bit more paint, highly recommended. Zebra brushes. I'm sure you know what they are by now, unless you're not on social media. Their marketing is fantastic and they've sent them to a bunch of different artists and everybody's using them and everybody's tagging them and it's worth the hype. So I have not bought any yet. They've sent me some and because I'm so hard on my brushes that I am scared of it. But I am using theirs and I have not ruined them yet. It's like a test to myself to see if I can handle good art supplies. Like with my projector, I'm like, okay, so this is my baby. Let's put it back in the packaging and then put it back in the car. And I'm really easy with that. But brushes, I'm like, yellow, pink, not wash them. They're going to stay in the dirty water for 7 days. Like, if you haven't invested in a sprayer yet, highly recommended. A Wagner. Oh, I need to update my art supply list on this one. This is one thing that's not on there. So I used the Graco 360 for a while and loved it. It helped me get the jobs done a lot faster. I was recently introduced to the Wagner sprayer. It's a handheld. It has a cord where it plugs in. They're both, the Wagner and the Graco, are about $200. Buy them on Amazon or Home Depot, wherever. I am Team Wagner. If you don't have a spray gun or if you have the Graco and it's about to poop out on you, invest in a Wagner next. I wish I was sponsored. I should probably reach out to some of these people and be like, I truly love your products. I'm talking about them. Let's do something. But the Wagner, it just does so much more than the Graco sprayer. And so when I'm meaning sprayer, it's something that's you can hold in your hand, has a cord. It's not like a little airbrush sprayer. And it's not like the big like spray things that house painters use. It's just like a handheld thing and you can switch out to different colors really easily. You clean it out, it's done. Easy. I have the big Titan sprayer that I invested in way back when, before I really knew anything about handheld sprayers. I'm telling you, mentorship pays. I didn't have anybody tell me about this stuff. I just had to be like, oh, I guess I'll try that. I was recommended by a house painter to buy this sprayer over here. And that's why I spent about $1,200 on my Titan sprayer. It's gotten its use. I've painted sides of barns with it. I've painted everything. But in order to clean that thing out, whew, yeah, I'm only breaking that thing out for heavy, heavy duty jobs. But the Wagner or the Graco, both fantastic. And I'm surprised. This is an expense where I'm like, take my money because it's only about $200 and it saves me hours and hours and hours and hours. I would pay that over and over again. This is one where I feel like I'm like stealing from them with the amount of time that I'm saving with this sprayer. I also have a set of scaffolding, about $750-ish. I think it was like a few years ago. That's what it went for. Double stacker scaffolding, the yellow one. It has 2 platforms, everything that goes with it. I really like that because I just have it. I can load it in this like mini trailer thing, which I guess would be another expense. Not everybody has a trailer that they can haul around with their Jeep, but I load it in there and I'm going to use it on this project next week. And it's really great because it's in a spot where like a lift would be really expensive to have it for as long as I need it. And it works fine. Like it's nice to have a scaffolding that I can put up there, leave, and I just don't have to pay $300, $400, $500 a day for a lift. There's a bunch of little expenses too. So I say paint, but the miscellaneous expenses are gloves, markers, chalk. I use this crate that's on wheels and I put all of my paints in it and then I can just roll it to my job site or like from my car to the place. I don't have to physically carry it, which really came in handy when I was pregnant. Again, link on my art supply list. If you want my crate, that's the thing. Take it from me. It's so great. But I think that was about 25 or 30 bucks worth it, but it's just like little ticky-tacky expenses. I'm going to keep that thing forever. And at least it's not a freaking monthly thing. But all of this to say somebody comes to you and asks for their logo to be painted. And it's on a wall and their logo is pretty simple. Say it's 2 colors and it's just some lines and you think it'll take you half a day. And it's on a decently flat wall and it's pretty simple. And you think that you want to charge them $200 to $300, right? Seems reasonable. It's not. Don't do that. I'm sharing all of these expenses to show you that your projector alone is not even going to cover like that. Yes, you can use your projector for multiple projects. So technically the cost of it is split out into multiple ones, but you're probably going to need a ladder to get up and paint the top of it. You're going to need those brushes that you invested in. You're going to need the drop cloth, the gloves, all the little, like the paint, which paint is going to be like 20 bucks for this project, right? It's not very big, but I want to encourage you to charge way more than that because like way more than $200 to $300, at least $500, at least businesses will pay it because they know the cost of doing business too. We're businesses, we have costs. Their businesses, I guarantee you, to put their countertops in, to put their flooring in, to get shelving put in is way more than the $500 quote that you're going to give them, minimum $500, because they also know if they were going to do that themselves, for them to go out and get all the supplies, first off, they wouldn't know what supplies to get. They just wouldn't. They would get the wrong brushes. They would be there forever. They would have to ask what kind of paint to use. Like they don't know. This would cause some headache. That's why they're hiring you. And for them to transfer that image up on the wall, they would have to get a projector, or they could use the Pounce method, or they could get it printed at their local Kinko's and then get it transferred on there. That's a freaking headache. So for you alone to come out with all of your supplies, give them a quote that not just covers your expenses, but covers your time and saves them time and takes the worry off of their shoulders and into your bank account, basically. And also just take into account the time that is needed to talk on the phone with that customer, feel out what they want, for them to send you a picture, for you to do the mock-up, for you to drive to their area, for you to prepare and have this all ready, for you to set up. It's just to clean up, to hold the insurance, to be there. It's just the whole thing. There's so much more than just those 3-4 hours that you're going to be there. And so whenever you stop to think like, whoa, like if I had charged her $500, I would be charging her for 5 hours of painting, and I've never charged $100 before, or this would be $100 per square foot. Whoa, like no way, I can't do that. It's like, you're not ripping people off. You're covering your expenses. You're covering your time, because say you do charge $500, which I think you should charge more than that. But I'm just like trying to get you away from the $200 to $300 that I see a lot of artists charging in the very beginning. I did that. I had a mentor tell me that $300 a day is really good. And if I can get that in Springfield, Missouri, then you're doing really well. And that's what I did. That's what I did in 2016, 2017. I charged $300 a day for as much as I could paint. And I was decently fast and pretty good. And people were just getting a steal. And I look back on that, I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me? Which is why I come on here and shout it, because I could have made so much more. and like there was one time I've mentioned this before, but it just like drills in my head. I drove all the way to Kansas City, painted all day, like 7 hours, and drove all the way back. And I want to say that was for like $350 full day. But that's what I was told. Like, hey, if you make $300 a day, you're doing great. I'm here to tell you that you can charge whatever you want within a reasonable thing. But I just want to also encourage you that reasonable is maybe a little bit higher than you think it is. Don't price gouge these people out of business, but just ask another artist. Ask another artist who is doing really well. Ask somebody who's been doing this for a while. But I will say, even then, be careful who you trust, because some artists, especially some older ones, some are grandfathered in to that old pricing system and maybe have not raised their prices in a really long time and should have. Because that's the person that gave me that advice, is somebody who was older than me, who was doing this much longer, and they gave me that advice to do $300 a day is a really good rate. Granted, this was like 10 years ago, but it was wrong. So be careful who you trust, which is why we have the Artist Academy membership promo. But really, like, there's so much in investing in your time and your money and just where you're taking advice from places. And it can definitely benefit you to shop around, shop around for advice, shop around for mentors, shop around for even on YouTube videos to see how all the people are pricing their art or their murals or their logos, and then make your decision. You don't have to completely rely on me. I'm not giving you exact prices exactly. This is a completely made up scenario. I'm just trying to get you to charge $500 absolutely minimum. But in certain areas, you could, a good or a $500 project to me could be $1,000 project in a bigger city. I live in small town Missouri, and I'm making $200,000 a year, which is insane, working part-time. If I can do it, you can 100% do it. You just have to know how to confidently charge. And part of confidently charging is knowing the back end and putting the numbers down and understanding the time and understanding the supplies, which is why I'm just like, keep going on and on about this. So that's it. That's all I have for that. But I just want to put it into perspective. I have a friend who makes, so this past year, she made about, I don't want to say the exact number, but just under $1 million. And her costs for doing business, so all the things that, like, hires a couple people and just has things that she has to pay out. She's not an artist, by the way, but she's built her business to a pretty great level. And I just am super open with people. I'm like, I'll tell you my numbers if you tell me yours. I just want to know. And her costs are about 40% of that. Crazy. So she's spending just under $500,000, maybe like a little bit, maybe like $300,000 to $400,000 on just costs of doing business. But I will tell you, the more you make, the more costs come out of that. And it's so hard for me, to get past that, because like I've explained in all of this, I'm like, you get the best deals on brushes here. You get the buy used on Amazon. Like I still have this totally ingrained feeling of get the best bang for my buck. Don't spend too much. And like, I'm slowly letting go of it and I'm sharing it as long as I go along. But part of that is, investing in help, investing in people to tell me how to do things a little bit better, investing in things like scaffolding and lifts and a spray gun to make everything get done quicker. Like it's just, if you're an artist, I would say if you haven't bought a spray gun yet and you're doing big walls, I think maybe that's your first step. It's just, you'll use it for sure, especially if you're doing anything outside. But I also want to share with you one last story. You know how I'm always saying artistacademy.co, artistacademy.co, not com, because I don't have the domain, whatever. We just bought artistacademy.com. I was going back and forth on the idea of rebranding once somebody out there buys artistacademy.com and maybe calling this like Mural Money, maybe calling it, I don't know. But I was like, man, I really don't want to rebrand the podcast. I don't like the idea of changing the podcast name when it's been like this for 6 years. I've been podcasting for 6 years. Crazy. And so I told Ryan, my husband, he was like, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas? I was like, this is what I want. I want artistacademy.com. And I gave him the emails. I had emailed with the website holder several times in the past year, and they were asking for $23,000. And I was like, absolutely not. We are not paying that. And we didn't, or anywhere close to that. And I told him the whole thing, and I'm like, look, if we can get it, great. If not, I'll just rebrand. Like, I'll figure it out. Like, and so he talked to the people. He's very much a salesman. I'm like, let's do this. And he wasn't able to talk to the actual holder of it. He was able to talk to the broker. So this is just somebody, I think maybe from India, who bought it back in the .com early days when they were like, I'm just going to buy this for $50 and then sell it for $1,000 later. Like, but I've made offers in the past of, okay, I'll pay you $2,000 for it. They're like, no. And then I said, okay, I'll pay you $4,000 for it last year. They're like, no. I'm like, so this year I was like $6,000. I will give you $6,000 for artistacademy.com. Looking back, I definitely should have called it something else. That way I did not have this expense. But when I was thinking about starting a membership 6 years ago, this wasn't a thing. Teaching artists the business of art, it wasn't a thing. And now it's popping up everywhere. I see everybody, every profession, and like good for everybody. This is a great thing to do. But back then I just typed in, I was like, maybe I'll just call it the Artist Academy because it's so generic. I was like, so with that though, when people Google Artist Academy, they're searching for like musicians or all different kinds of artists or whatever. And so I pop up. So I get a lot of hits on this website. Even though it's artistacademy.co, it was the closest thing. And we have some SEO behind it now. And so I just didn't want to lose all that SEO. And anyway, so he made a offer for $8,000 and they said no. And I was like, okay, well, that's it. We'll just do it. And then he made an offer for $9,000 and they accepted it. Just out of the blue, just being like, okay, 8,000 was no, and that came after them emailing back saying, no, you need to get it to at least 15 grand for us to even consider your offer. And where I was like, no, not happening. Like, I have my limit. And then he just sent back 9 and they said, okay, offer accepted. Just like that. No argument, no nothing. I'm like, people are freaking full of shit. That is, So now we own it. And from now on, I'm in the middle of like bringing everything over from .co to .com. But if you go to artistacademy.com, it will currently right now, in this day that I am recording this, it will go to artistacademy.co. So it's the same thing. Like I own both of them forever. So yay. So that's the cost of doing business that I just ate recently. So I think the thing to learn from that is when you start a business and you don't want to change it, just use your name as your art account. But if you're starting a coaching program, Don't use something generic, or make sure you can buy the .com right out the gate. And okay, if you're thinking that this is a lot, which it is, $9,000 is a lot to pull out of your ass and hand to somebody in January. I listen to a lot of business podcasts and of people who like work at startups and stuff. And to get a very generic like artistacademy.com or something like tattoo.com, like to get that, usually people pay quite a bit more than I paid. So I was like, in comparison, to make myself feel better, it's not that bad, right? Okay. Oh, and just to share like all of the quick shares of the behind the scenes of the Artist Academy, you'd think that it's just like, oh, I'll just start teaching and then blah, blah. No, I have a ton of expenses. Like, for instance, I wrote these down. I pay about $2,000 a year to use Kajabi, which is the platform that the Artist Academy is on, and how we put out everything, emails, podcast, website, everything. I have my virtual assistant, which is about $700 a month. My audio editor for this podcast is about $400 a month if we only do one episode a month. If not, it's almost double that. So, and then the platform that I use to record this is about $200 a year. And then my new virtual assistant is over $1,000 a month, and because she works a lot more hours. And then what else? Yeah, it's a ton. Yeah, it all adds up. And so even though, I'm making 200-ish for the year, it's like, I'd say my expenses, if I had to give it a number, would be, I haven't done my taxes quite yet, but I want to say 30%, which I feel all right about that. This year I am spending more in order to make more. So I will let you know halfway through the year, about then, how my ads have worked, how this new virtual assistant has made me more money, and how all the things that I'm using to invest have paid me back. So stay tuned on that. I go forever be open about my numbers, because I think as artists, we should. And this is an industry where people don't do that. And I appreciate when other people do. And if anything, it just lets me know, hey, I'm on the right track, because it's kind of the same. Or, oh, she spends a lot more on this, but she makes some more on that. Or, oh, maybe I don't need to spend. It's just, I think comparison can be a really beneficial thing if we use it in this way. I will bring back some interviews at some point. I've messaged some artists, but for right now, you're getting a lot of solo episodes. So hope you like it. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. I so appreciate you tuning in every week, and I would also appreciate if you could do me a very small favor and possibly share this episode either on social media. You can tag me, or even just write me a note in my DMs saying what you liked about the podcast, what you want to see more of, anything. I love getting any and every feedback, especially in the form of a review, 5 stars only. That's all we accept on Apple or Spotify. And just any kind of positive feedback whatsoever. It really makes everything worth it, me sitting down to create this absolutely free podcast full of art and business content. And I also wanted to throw this out there that if you are not where you want to be currently in your art business, if you're stuck at a boring job that just sucks the creativity out of you, and you don't have time to paint, and you're wanting to go full time with some kind of way of painting or murals or something, anything other than where you're at, trust me, I know the feeling, and I know how much it can affect the rest of your life, and I know what's on the other side of it. There's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of tips and tricks in the middle, but that's why I created the Artist Academy membership. It's only $37 a month, and it takes artists from aspiring or beginner to full-time and up to 6 figures. I've helped more artists than I can count or think of at the moment quit their jobs and go full-time into painting, and I can help you too. It's such a crazy, confusing tough time, especially in that first year. That's why I specialize in helping artists within that first year of business, because that's the hardest part, taking the first step, figuring out how to get those first couple clients, and then we work from there. I've helped multiple artists reach even the 6-figure mark, and I can help you too. If you're ready to make 2025 the year that you finally go full time into the creative industry and make good money with your art, and I want to invite you into the Artist Academy membership to view my over 100 plus art and business tutorials. There's everything from how to paint large scale to how to make a marketing plan for this year. And every single month I update it with new content of what's working right now, what's working on social media, what are the things that I'm doing, specific things with templates, with email scripts, with all the things that you need, that you just go right over the headache of it all, and I just give it to you, and you make it your own, and you grow your own unique art business the way you want to. Inside the membership, I open up my business and show you what I'm pricing per job, how the job went, what I learned from it, how I got that customer, and how I'm repeating that over and over again to build a 6-figure plus consistent art business for the last 10 years. I think I've been doing this for about 10 years and teaching for almost 6 years. Crazy. So I've heard it all. I've heard all the excuses, all the hurdles, and I can help you through them. They say a mentor can see your future a lot more clearly than you can. That's why you hire one, because when you're going through the tough times and thinking that you can't do it, I'm here and I know you can, and I can help you get around that hurdle and reach to the next hurdle and then the next one. And then, yeah, so $37 a month. Go to artistacademy.co to join. There are no minimums. Cancellation is super easy. Stay as long as you want, gather as much as you want, and grow your business as much as you want this year. Go to artistacademy.co to join the membership.